Hello and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Millie and I love any makeup, especially shiny, shifty, and sparkly eyeshadows. And welcome to another day of Multichromas. I'm going to be posting 12 videos that are multichrome related in the next 12 days through Christmas Day the 25th. And today I'm going to be talking about some more affordable multichromes, potentially an option. And the reason I wanted to try these out is because multichromes are just known to be very expensive, especially from indie brands, because they are usually handmade, hand pressed, and the eye-safe multichrome pigments that are used to make them are very, very expensive. And so it's always going to be a higher price tag on multichromes compared to regular shimmers, etc. And there have been more mainstream brands coming out with multichromes, and they're still at a higher price tag, which I think is something to be expected. So I was very intrigued when I saw that SHEGLAM launched a Chroma or Multichrome themed collection. They are the sub-brand of Shein, and so they are very, very, very cheap products, cheap clothing. That's what they're known for. That's what they do. So first up is the Lucid Multichrome highlighter, which I was definitely curious about. The first thing that came to mind was, does this dupe the Kaleidos Prophecy Multichrome highlighter? And then there's also two palettes in the collection. One has what seems to be a lighter kind of multichrome, so it has like a little bit of a lighter base. And then the other palette has a black base multichrome, and there's also a couple of mattes as well as just regular shimmers in these palettes. And it will put up these swatches and also close-ups of the packaging, because I feel like the packaging is actually pretty nice. I feel like it feels like a little bit heavier. It is obviously plastic. It just doesn't feel like super, super cheap like Wet n Wild and e.l.f., for example. And then they also have liquid multichrome eyeshadows. These are, again, sheer. One of these shades is very, very light. It's more of an iridescent multichrome, and the other two shades are also like kind of on the sheerer side. This packaging seems to be made up of the same type of material as the palettes, which I like. And then the last three products were actually multichrome eyeliners, and I was so intrigued by these and excited over these. And I was very, very excited to see not only just how they came in terms of the packaging. The packaging is really nice. It has like a soft, matte, almost rubbery touch to it. It does have a smudger on one end, and you can kind of see through the packaging. And the biggest thing that I was really excited to see was that these are thicker liners, so they're not as thin as the Sugar Drizzle or the Devinah liners. And of course, I will be showing you some swatch comparisons, because the moment I opened this palette, I knew that I had at least one or two dupes for this shade from indie brands. And of course, I had to go ahead and compare the other shades as well. So let's get into some swatch comparisons, then the tutorial / demos with the palettes, and then I'll give you some of my thoughts at the end of the video. Swatch comparisons, we've got Aqua Nova, which is the liquid multichrome from SHEGLAM. Below that is the multichrome from the palette. And then below that is Devinah Myricks Martian from the Lightwork 3 palette. Below that is Cosmic Dancer from Terra. And below that is Retrograde from Lethal Cosmetics. Below that is Verte from Clionadh, and Big Bang from Terra. I thought these would be exact dupes, but they're not. They're way more green, as you can see. While straight on, they look much more of a light teal, almost aqua. And so I would say between these first four, these are all pretty much dupes to each other. Martian and Cosmic Dancer for sure are pretty much identical. I do think that Martian and Cosmic Dancer are just a little bit shinier, and they do swatch better. They're not hard panning like the shade in the SHEGLAM palette. Next up is the Multichrome from the SHEGLAM second palette. And as you can see, it's not really shiny at all. It really doesn't even swatch well at all. It definitely needs some sort of a base. That's why I'm just showing it on my finger. And then next to that is Spire from Clionadh, which I think would be what it would translate to if it was shinier and actually had any sort of color payoff. But just wanted to show you these two comparisons. I mean, not even close in terms of shine, obviously. I'm going to prime with the Natasha Denona eyeshadow primer. I'm going to be using Time Warp on this eye. There's no shade names, so I'm just going in with the yellow, and I'm just going to put that on the inner half of my crease. Go in with just a little bit more. That is blending so nicely. I was very surprised when I swatched these. They swatched super, super nice, like very buttery. And then going in with the green on the outer half. I think I took the yellow a little too far. So I'm just gonna layer it a little bit. It should be fine since it's very yellow instead of like a true orange. This is really nice so far. Going in with the dark brown in my outer corner. And that is packing on and blending really well. Again, this one just swatched really nicely too, so I'm not like that surprised, but I mean, shadows can feel really nice and then, you know, not really blend as well or build up as well. So basically just darkened up this super dark green. Going in back a little bit with the green, just to help blend this out here. I feel like it's sticking just a tiny bit. So this is gonna be quite a glam look. I'm gonna go in with my Fair & Pixie epoxy. I'm just gonna put it, I'm gonna do half a crease. Do like to tap it out just to make sure I take any excess off. And I'm dipping into that Multichrome shade. I still can't believe this dupes out the Devinah Myricks palette. It is so beautiful. I think this could be very, very sheer if you wanted it to be. And then I'm going to take the non-multichrome shade and I'm going to put it right next to it and just slightly blend it into the multichrome. And again, this one is super, super beautiful. This is a very nice shimmer shade, I would say. It's pretty glitzy. Just gonna go back in out in the outer corner just to make sure it's blended out here with the shimmer. All right, I'm finishing this eye with that brown underneath my lower lash line. And then I'm gonna use the yellow under the rest of my lower lash line and I'm gonna blend it into the brown. I took that way too far down. That's usually why I don't put eyeshadow there. For the inner corner highlight, I'm gonna use Opal Essence, which is the liquid multichrome. Oh, that's pretty. That is so pretty. I'm gonna tap it. That definitely took some off. So maybe building it up a little bit, but I think that's pretty nice. I put Vertigo in my lower lash line. It is so beautiful. So beautiful. I really like that this pencil is a bit thicker. It's super creamy. I don't have to worry about it breaking. It's really easy to apply. On the downside, you can see I have some flaking off of that liquid shade I put for my inner corner highlight. That's literally just like completely coming off. So I don't know if it was just too many layers or what, probably, but that's completely flaked off now at this point. I might as well just like not even. But regardless, here's a finished look with the first palette. Let's look at that shift. My cheek is shifting as well. Oh, so beautiful. I really love the shade. I mean, I already know I love this kind of multichrome, so I knew I was going to like it. Priming again with the Natasha Denona Shadow Primer. Going in with the Velocity palette on this eye. There's only 3 mattes in this palette, so there's a bit less to choose from. So I'm going to go in with this kind of mauve-y, pinky purple, pinky shade. And I'm just blending that out, and that had quite a bit of pigmentation. And that's blending out again like a dream. I'm going to go in with a little bit more. Then I'm going in with the darker brown in the outer corner. This is a really nice tone of brown. I mean, I'm taking a little bit of that mauve shade and helping to blend it out. I'm trying not to let this look get out of control like the other side. I feel like I need to go in with a little bit more and just blend that out. And that had so much pigmentation. I just feel like this is better quality than like e.l.f. and Wet n Wild. And that's like kind of the same price range. So like, what are they doing over there? Because they could be doing this kind of formula. Because I could get down with this kind of formula from Wet n Wild and e.l.f. But I'm just connecting my lower lash line. I'm going to go in with the black. And I'm just going to lightly put it right near my lash line. So I just want to deepen it up. But just a tad. And then going back into my blending brush. I picked up the Champagne Shimmer and I'm gonna go with it under my lower lash line. I did wet it. This actually swatched really nicely too. I can add a little bit more. This brush is way too large for this. For the Multichrome, I can already tell I'm definitely gonna need to use some sort of a primer. So I'm gonna do the same type of look as I did on the other side. And again, just tapping out the Fahrenheit Pixie epoxy. This is basically the equivalent of like a black base Multichrome, except this has like no metallic effect to it whatsoever. It's very satin, if you could even call it that. It does have a shift, but it's pretty subtle, and it is hard panning for sure. So I think I'm not gonna even take it all the way. I'm gonna use another shadow in there. It's gonna be an interesting look for sure. I'm going in with the orange shimmer shade. I'm just trying to switch it up a little bit and trying to blend it together without over blending it. I'm going back in with the Multichrome and just going over that. Yeah, I don't think this palette is definitely, in terms of just the Multichrome itself, is not really anywhere near this. I'm actually taking the Opal Essence Iridescent Liquid Shadow, and I'm gonna overlay it over all of this. It's kind of applying really well. Definitely need to tap it out here though, just smooth it out. But I am not mad at the way that looks. Let's see if this can dry down, and maybe I'll layer on top of it. In the waterline on this eye, I put Zenith, I think it's pronounced. I actually meant to put this shade in the other eye and the other one in here, since this one is more green and the other one's more purple. But it's fine. This one is really, really beautiful too. So next, I just want to see how this highlighter looks. So I'm picking some up on a synthetic brush. This is from Clionadh. This is a blending brush actually, but I use it as a highlighter brush because it's way too big for my eyes. Okay. That, do you see that? Oh my god, that just blended into my skin, and my skin looks wet, but like shifty wet. Let's do it on the other side as well. Oh, I wonder if I wet my brush and then put it on, like if I sprayed it. Meanwhile, on my lid, it's on there. It doesn't seem to be flaky when I kind of touch my eye. It doesn't look like it's flaking off. I only put one layer. It's pretty dull. It's not really super shiny or anything. There's a little bit of a shift, but I think this would need to be layered over a darker matte and not over like another Multichrome that's dark, if that makes sense. And then this is the kind of sad eye, if you will. I don't think you'll be really able to see the shift, maybe just a little bit of it, but I think the mattes were definitely the best part of this. But so here's the second look. This last third look, I'm priming with the Natasha Denona Eyeshadow Primer. I'm going in with the green matte. I'm just popping that right into the crease. It's going to be a pretty simple look, and I'm not going to be fully finishing it. I'm not going to put lashes on, not even mascara. I just really want to see how the liquid Multichrome applies and if it's got potential or not. These mattes though, I can't believe it. And then taking that dark brown out on my outer corner. So basically the first look I did without the yellow. Like, how? I cannot, I don't understand. These mattes are so good. Like, what kind of Twilight Zone are we in? So I'm going in with Fool's Gold. Super curious. It's definitely a little sheer. I'm gonna try to add another layer after this. It's very slippy. Like, I'm gonna let this dry, and these do take some time to dry, so you definitely want to make sure you're not opening your eye, because then you'll just crease it immediately as it's drying. All right, it's dried down, and it's, I don't know, it looks even more patchy. And something about it just it looks duller. It doesn't look as wet and metallic and foiled. All right, this is kind of a lot, so let's see how long this takes to dry, but I don't have my hopes high, honestly. So I ended up trying to spread it out, and I can see it's crusting off. Now that it's dry, it just wants to come off immediately. Like, this is not going to last whatsoever, which is really unfortunate because it had some potential. And I just wanted to show you in my waterline, I put Subliminal, the liner, and I really like it. It's really, really beautiful. So I'm going to talk about these product by product. First up, the highlighter. I really actually like this highlighter. It is not a dupe to the Space Age Prophecy from Kaleidos, and it is really beautiful. It just looks really nice on the skin. I definitely think I see myself reaching for this one. It is exactly the same shade as the liquid Multichrome, which is called Opal Essence, but it is Lucid as a highlighter, so obviously they're using some of the same pigments between some of these products, and I would honestly recommend the highlighter over this shade. I think that this is just too finicky. I'm just going to start talking about the other two. They're just too finicky. They're too sheer. They kind of crust off. They take a long time to dry down. I think they would just take way too much time to try to make them work, and you're not even guaranteed that they're going to end up looking good. I did try the Opal Essence liquid eyeshadow to top it on top of this as a highlight, and it did really work well there, but there's really no reason to just buy this to use as a highlighter when you can actually just buy the highlighter. So there's definitely some hits and misses. Then also from the liquid Multichromes is Aqua Nova, which is the same pigment that is in this pan right here in this palette, which is the Time Warp palette. So that is something to keep in mind. Again, seems like they're reusing some of the same pigments in some of these different kinds of products, but I would opt for the palette. So let me talk about the palette. I am very impressed by these mattes in both the palettes. I think they came on really easily. They blended out really easily. They layered easily. I honestly can't even believe it because these are so affordable, and I have not had a good experience with like really cheap products. So for example, like Wet n Wild, e.l.f., even Milani, like their mattes are a little bit questionable, definitely on the like drier, thinner side. These are way better than that, and they're probably about the same price tag, plus you get a multichrome. That being said, I would not recommend the Velocity palette because the multichrome in here is really just impossible to pick up. It's pretty much hard pan completely at this point. Even with a primer, it doesn't have any sort of shine or anything like that. The other non-multichrome shimmers in this palette do seem promising. They do swatch really well. They seem like they will be nice, and the mattes are really nice. So it is really unfortunate that that multichrome in this palette is such a dud. But the Time Warp palette, I would recommend. It does have that beautiful multichrome that is a dupe to Terra Moons as well as Danessa Myricks. I can't believe it. Oh my goodness. And then it has some really beautiful metallics in here. I think overall this is a really cute little color story as well. The only thing I'm not so sure about in this palette is the black matte that has the purple sparkles throughout it, but they're just gonna blend away. But overall, really enjoyed this palette, really enjoyed these mattes, and I'm curious if there are other palettes that are like non-multichrome that just have mattes in them are the same matte formula as these, because if they are, then maybe I would like to pick some up. So let's talk about the multichrome liners. I love these. Out of all of this, I recommend these the most. I use them in the waterline. I did do 1 day of a wear test, so obviously not long enough, so take that with a grain of salt, but it lasted pretty decently in my waterline. It was obviously gone after like 12 hours, but I don't have a liner that will last that long in my waterline anyway. I really like these multichrome liners. They just add like an extra bit of just dimension to your eye, the way that the light just bounces off of your waterline like and into your eye. They're just a really nice little bright piece in the waterline. You're probably not going to see like a full multichrome shift. Obviously your waterline is pretty thin for that. Now I really love that these are thicker, so these are much less prone to breaking. There's no tugging. They're super creamy. This would also be great if you wanted to do a multichrome liner wing and you didn't want to go in and do the whole mixing shebang and then go in and draw on a liner, and you just wanted to go with like a black liner and then go in with the pencil over it. I really hope that they come out with more shades. So that's everything for this video. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this collection. If you picked any of this up and you tried it for yourself, I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, I would love it if you subscribe. There's so much multichrome content uploading my channel and much more to come. You don't want to miss out, so thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.